the recording. Hello, good evening to you there in the Philippines. I'm Floris van Geel, and I'm in the Netherlands. I just woke up. I'm here with my coffee, and I'm going to tell you something about hosting large open source conferences with open source tools. I'm really glad that there's one positive side of this whole crisis we have now around the world is that all the events that we used to go to physically are now going digitally. So I can just participate in Manila at DrupalCamp Manila really often. My name is Floris van Geel, and you can find me on the Slack as Zelfje and 040 Lab on Twitter. That's my company, 040 due to the area code here in the Netherlands of Eindhoven. And I call myself a Drupal entrepreneur. It used to be that I work 60% for clients and 40% develop my own projects, but due to recent changes, I work 30% for clients and do 70% product development, which is even more cool. So where does this all come from? It started in 1974. The University of Illinois, they have a Talk-O-Matic, a computer where you could type and talk with your peers on the other side inside another university. Then in the 90s, with this, maybe you know it, maybe you don't. If you don't know it, you're really young, enjoy that. Another talking protocol came up, ICQ, where you could send each other messages and have conversations online. Then in a while, so around 2010, just before 2010, the mobile phones exploded and overtook the amount of PCs. So currently, specifically in Asia and Africa, people use their mobile phone as a primary means of communication. In 2014, another interesting happened is that the total four big messaging apps overtook the amount of messages sent from all the other social platforms. If we look at the world map, then we see how good and how well covered everybody is with connectivity. And almost everywhere around the world, people are connected now and engaging and exchanging information. That's why it's so good to have these online conferences, that everybody can join up and you can share your knowledge together and learn from each other. So what does this look like? There's a big issue. Social platforms like Facebook and Google and so on, they collect masses and masses of information about the individuals. People don't value their privacy that much anymore these days. And they just share anything and everything on social media. So these individuals, they compete and, to get more followers, more retweets, more social status, more apparel. And in that process, a lot of information is just lost into a big blur of other information by other people. So if you look at it, everybody's just shouting out all the time. And if you make this into a schema, you could say like, okay, if you have three negative elements, a very intention ADHD, you have the stalking part of it, and some narcissism that I am in the front. I could place these big social medias in the middle, where Twitter is the nice place where they all come together. And then we start hooking up all kinds of things to the internet as well. So we have an internet of things, we have people and things and information and big data all flowing through a lot of big clouds. So where does that leave us? How can we maintain our own privacy, our own data, and still make a sustainable conference online without it being utterly expensive? One component that we launched in 2017 is DrupalChat. It is an open source chat system to replace Slack and to have all the people in the Drupal community collaborate and chat together. It is free open source. It's hosted on German soil. So there is a big history of what all the people since 2017 communicated, which is freely to be searched by and used by for everybody that is interested. With this, we can demonstrate that we are a welcoming and happy community and collaboratively work together. The next component which is important is Jitsi Meet, which is an open source video conferencing tool. We are now currently looking at Zoom, and with recent news from early this month, we see that Zoom has a little bit of issues. It installs spyware on my Mac, as well as it's not secure in its endpoints. So in order to have safe and sustainable conferences, we need other components. For example, Jitsi Meet. We tested Jitsi Meet for my local Toastmasters club. Toastmasters is a club where people practice their English talking together. And we were in this meet with about 20 people. It took about 8 Mbits of bandwidth. So for resources point of view, it is not that hard to host it and to use it. It only takes a certain amount of bandwidth. So the next step would be to have, we have these hosting companies. We also have one, and there's like Platform, and there's MSZ Labs and so on. So if all the hosting companies would just run a container with meeting endpoints, we have enough capacity just to share the talks that we have now in an open, sustainable way. It is very modern, it looks great. It works on the phone, it works in the desktop, you can share the screen, more efficient than I'm now currently sharing my screen. And it consists of actually 3 components. There is, in the middle, there is Prosody, which is like the broker, the SIP, also but Strun-Tun broker, which makes the connection between the peers that are communicating at the maximum amount of bandwidth with enough sound quality at the same time. Then you have the recorders, like the video bridge recorders, and for every room that you want to record, you need to have 1 recorder. So that is a horizontal scaling. I think that Zoom also does that for each recording. Sometimes they're not available, sometimes they are available. And then you have on the side the conference component. That is where you can mute the others and have the speaker focus, share the slides, and have this interaction, which is neat. And of course, the front end. What we did with the Prosody is it's a very old and very solid piece of Linux technology. We hooked up there a GWT token. So you can have your meetings as a Drupal login. So you first log into the Drupal, and then you have a match for people who want to talk together or have a presentation, and then they get sent to a room like this, where the speaker will give the presentation or the people will meet. So these kinds of technologies are already at hand, and the quality of Jitsi Meet is equivalent or maybe even better than you have with Zoom, Hangout, or Microsoft Teams. So if we look at what are the biggest examples in this time, which is recently new because all the event branch had to reinvent the wheel. We used to go physically to events that were either organized by volunteers or by a big event company. And currently we all have to do it online. So looking at that, this example is called Remo, which is like a room with different tables, and people can hop over from table to table and there join a conversation. this kind of a system for a concept would be really great if you do a contribution like event, for example, Drupal Developer Days, or for organizing your sprint lounge. It is pretty costly if you want to run a longer event, and you have to pay per month and so on. However, if you have the little building block of having a Jitsi Meet Room or even a Google Hangout, since the components to access should be just from the browser if you are on a laptop. You shouldn't have to install a specific third-party app in order to join up and continue and collaborate. So this kind of a concept with the tables could really help with collaborating and working together. The next example, that's called Atkins. It's more like a traditional chat-based website with video calling component. This one also uses Zoom. The previous one that uses little Jitsi Meets in order to facilitate the rooms. It can only stream one main hallway track, but it cannot record all the different individual components. Technically, that's possible, but the software just doesn't. So making this into a format where you would say, okay, this could work for us as a conference, I think this is about the format that we have, because you also have built a great and beautiful website for Drupal Camp Manila, adding a real-time chat component inside the website, which is already possible from applying Rocket Chat that I showed before with DrupalChat, as well as having the ability to call each other, would make you able to have like a central hallway track, because that is what I personally always miss at virtual conferences, that you go to a meeting or a presentation like this in the room, and it's just like watching Netflix. You're sitting there, you're observing it, and there is no opportunity to go into the hallway track and network with your peers. It's possible, but difficult to find room and connect with people in order to do contribution and sprint. So having this social layer as an integral part of your online conference, to me, it's the most important part of doing the conference itself. Another example, I'll take a little sip. This is a really, really expensive platform. It's called vFairs, virtual fairs, used by IBM and really big brands. And it made a 3D conference hall with also together with that 3D conference rooms. However, the people you see in there are computer animated people, and you can then choose either to dress them formally or not. But it's not the actual people that are actually there. So what they did, they made it really pretty with 3D renders and animations. In my opinion, that takes away the focus of the conference itself. However, it also has really cool ideas. For example, if you want to do a panel and you have like the background blur or green screen, you can just pose a few people that are all around the world at the same time and do as if it is a physical, real panel where people talk about a certain subject and can be questioned about from the audience. Another thing that is important for business value is virtual booth, where the sponsors can present their companies and give out virtual swag, or maybe have some system where they send the actual t-shirts and stickers and all the stuff that we like as conference attendees eventually to the people themselves. So why not just take these things and use them? First of all, the cost is really, really high. They're utterly expensive. You're talking about 20,000 euros or something to use these vFairs, and over a few thousand to use the other solutions. I'm really concerned upon security, because we see that the majority of these platforms still uses Zoom internally for the video calling. Not sure how it is about reliability and scalability. The first example that I showed can only stream one room. If you have it in your own open source manner, it's just a matter of adding more resources, adding more bandwidth in order to scale it further. And it's not open source, so I cannot check if the code is valid or not. So I made a sticker specifically, not for this camp, but in general. Like before, I made a sticker on Slack off in order to change from the proprietary Slack without history to RocketChat that we facilitate with DrupalChat. This one is specifically made for Zoom and Corona. So if we want to do this with Drupal, there is several options. Traditionally, we have the COD, that's the third link, the conference organizing distribution. That used to work pretty well for DrupalCon as well as local events. However, it is like a huge tool chain with a lot of blocks, and it's made in Drupal 7. People are working really hard still to port it to Drupal 8, but due to its size and complexity, it's, in my opinion, not really the perfect solution. Another, if you look at from a conference where you would be more educational, then Opinjo would be a great candidate. Opinjo is an open source e-learning system built with Drupal. So you have H5P videos with quizzes, adding a Jitsi component to that or Hangouts so that people can actually talk and discuss about the questions at hand. Could work for like a school setup scenario. Another option could be to look at what we did in 2018 for the Drupal Europe project. We built our own Drupal 8 website with the whole program, with the whole scheduling in there. We even made specific views in order to have the program listed on digital displays. And doing that saved us the cost of about 30,000 euros, not to have to print all the signs, all the bannage, everything. So that could be like a good starting point. Currently, it is being refactored for Drupal Camp Iceland. That is also postponed. So I hope that they also choose to go digital. The last one that I want to show and tell about is OpenSocial, which is a Drupal 8 social engagement platform, something like Facebook, and that works with organic groups. So you have a group around a topic, and 3 months ago, we made the chat component that makes in the RocketChat module on Drupal.org that links the group to the actual chat room, which means that you have the ability to directly talk with each other, topic related. From within a chat, you can also call each other with video calls. So that part of it could make a real strong basis in order to do an open source conference online. Recent news, tweet from yesterday, is that for the DrupalCon United States, we'll go to Drupal Global, DrupalCon Global, and that will happen in July, online, with a basis of OpenSocial. So looking at these things together and seeing what we can actually achieve by collaborating and building all this with open source could be the solution in order to have like sustainable, good online conferences. So what is needed? The first thing is needed for us in order to use Jitsi is the Jitsi API component as a Drupal module. The Jitsi API is fully fledged, so you can program it to take certain people and put them together in a room, after lock the room, and give the monitor the admin rights, as well as make everybody silent, and then have the speaker do the speech. So having this component and having the ability to trigger a Jitsi Meet conference call, like we see here, from the website is really, really important in order to show and link up what is actually happening, what is happening now, what other rooms are available, and what purpose can we fulfill in order to make the conference better. Another new thing that we have on virtual conferences that everybody is forgetting is that there is no limit to the amount of rooms. In a physical conference, you have only so much rooms. And in Drupal Europe, we use 12 rooms at the same time, or 8, I'm not sure. But in a virtual conference, you could have it like 20 or 50 or 100 if needed. So the more people join up, the more speakers will want to tell something about their interesting topic, the more diversity you will get, and the more parallel sessions you can host. Besides that, a very important thing that I talked about at the start is we need a hallway track. So I need to be able to see, okay, these people are currently online. These people are inside a session, so I won't bother them. These people, they might be doing homeschooling at this time, or they might have to work. So we need to have a way in order to track availability. So before the conference, everybody has an account, has an avatar, sets their date, time zone, or location. So we know actually in what time you are now. It's about 3 o'clock, and here it's 9 o'clock. So we have a different timing in a real-time conference. The conference should last at least 24 hours, so everybody around the whole world can join up. And then you want to have a visual component. Okay, these people are willing to chat now, so you can meet them up, make new friends, find old friends, schedule and book each other's time in order to catch up and to make great things with open source. So this real-time component, which isn't there yet, I'm still looking for help. If people have good ideas, a certain middleware that could do this scheduling, or we just need to build like one React component from scratch with a asynchronous fast database in order to book and schedule all the people and link them up. The next one is if you have a dynamic hallway track and you have a pre-programmed schedule, how can we show this to the viewer? In my vision, it would be to have in the vertical the time, which just passes, and in the horizontal, all the activities which are happening at the same time. The user can then apply some filters in order to find the topics and the people and the meetings that the person is interested in. Here is also a big challenge from a user experience point of view. So I'm also calling to community, if you have good ideas, if you want to help out, join up. So then we come to a certain deadline. And now it's the 25th of April. And what we will see on June the 3rd, 2020, there will be the global Drupal 9 release party. There's currently already 2 initiatives happening, and I would love to add a third to that. We have Paul Johnson that starts a tweet wave. So the Twitter wave goes all around the world, starting from New Zealand morning until that in Honolulu is evening. There will be tweets about people celebrating the ready, new, deployed Drupal 9 release. Also, there will be, same way as the Celebrate Drupal 8 celebration website, there will be a Celebrate Drupal 9 website. So it would be great if everybody is going to pre-record a Drupal 9 celebration video and submits it to that website, so that we, the same way that it was a great collection of videos for the release of Drupal 8, we also have it for Drupal 9. So at the same time that its Twitter wave is going, I would like to add this real-time component that I talked about in previous slides to this website or to another link where you click on and you can meet and pair up and party together with all your friends all around the world. So that's a call to action to everybody seeing this and listening in. Join up, hop in, add some volunteer time as well to the Drupal 9 release project, because there still is some documentation to be done on Drupal.org, as well as this website with the videos, which is being built by Dan 4K to 3K 2K. Can also use some help. So I think that with these components together, we can just continue and build together a system with a basis of Drupal, a basis of Jitsi Meet and Google Hangouts, as well as chat, and combining that all together, in my opinion, will make a very good platform for building conferences, as well as in engaging new people to join up. So instead of just shouting against each other, we have something that can actually be productive and make really, really cool conferences. So is there any questions? If not, I will go for show and telling something. Let's go.
Guys, do we have questions for Floris? And perhaps maybe I will throw some question. Floris, so have you, or is there any conferences that you have used this platform in Netherlands? Probably targeting open source conferences.
No, not yet. What we did is in the last 6 months, we invested heavily in getting grip of the Jitsi technology. Since last Monday, we are able to record the sessions. And in the past half year, what we did is we did local meetups inside a Jitsi Meet, as well as the Toastmasters meetups, which go up to, like, let's say 30 people maximum. The component which is missing still is this real-time element. So I hope that after Drupal 9 release, we can hook this up together and get this block inside a open social or a conference website, and then actually go for hosting real and bigger conferences. So we did get the experience with the individual components, but bring it all together is a lot of work, and yeah, it's not yet operational at that level.
That would
but
be
on the other hand,
awesome.
Sorry, but on the other hand, now that DrupalCon is going for open social, and with that building in July already, the DrupalCon, I think that the technology will go faster than I expect at this time.
Yeah. We are looking forward for the release version of the platform. Because I think that is something that Drupal can be proud of, you know, a platform that's that runs in the blood of Drupal. So that's wonderful. So thanks again, Floris. Thank you for your time. I know that it's early morning on your side, and yeah, it was awesome. All right, guys. 3:25.
I just got a question on the chat.
Sorry.
Is there any, like, how to install or create this for a demo? This, okay, yeah.
Okay.
There is. there is. For all the components that I showed, like the Rocket Chat, there is a demo as well as an install, which is pretty well documented. For the Jitsi Meet, there is installs and demos which are not really that well documented, but still workable. And for Open Social as well as the Drupal Europe website, which in my opinion are currently the two candidates that can become the platform to get these components together in Drupal, there's also well documented as demos available. And I will share the slides online so that people can click on the links and actually visit the demos. The answer is, the question is answered well because we see cool in the chat. All right. Any other questions? I have like 10 minutes or something left. Is there a way to get in touch with you? Twitter handle? Yes, there is. It was on the first slide. I have to slide again. Share screen. Go for this one. Share. Click. Share. Good. I'll go to the first. There I am. My Twitter handle is 040LAB because I'm too lazy to maintain two profiles, one for the company and one for me. So I just have one Twitter handle at @overolab. And you can also reach me. I'm still even on IRC, but I guess that not anybody is there anymore. And yeah, you can also do it by email if you add .com behind the Twitter handle and put my first name beforehand. That's my email. Let's go back to the Zoom to see if there's another question. How do I get to this? Chat again. I don't know. I just stop sharing and I go back to the chat again. Let's see. Do we have another question? No.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Mr. Flores. That was awesome topic. So at this point in time, our next speaker is Mr. Gerald Villorente. He will be talking about Lando, the local development made easy. So give it up to Mr. Gerald. Bro, take over.
Hello folks, let me just set up my presentation.